When you love something, if you love a plant, you're going to help it grow. If you love your business, you're going to help it grow. If you love your pet, you're going to help it grow. If you love individuals, people, human beings, you help them grow. And that's what I see these businesses that I visited on the We Supply America tour do. They are platforms to help individuals grow and develop and fulfill their potential. And if that's not family, if that's not love, I don't know what is.
Dirk Beveridge, founder of UnleashWD. UnleashWD, you know what? I'm not going to take the words out of Dirk's mouth. Dirk has become a friend. We've been in the trenches together. We were on a tremendous assignment for Mark Bodner, CEO of L&R Distributors. We've been to, Dirk, where have we been to? We've been to Reno, Nevada together. We've been to Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, some godforsaken place. No, we love you there in Pine Bluff. Monroe, New Jersey. Dirk, welcome to Mind Your Business.
Yitzchok, thank you so much for having me, man. With all that buildup of the guest, I'm sitting by, who are you going to have tonight?
Oh, Dirk, so walk us down memory lane. When you were a kid in school and doodling in the book, did you envision running the operation that you now run to? You speak all over the world. We'll get to what you are today, but when was the aha moment that kind of catapulted you to where you are today?
Yeah, well, I think I have had kind of a rocky road to where I ended up today. And
by the way, that sounds like all successful leaders.
Right. Yeah. So I haven't told this story in a while, so thank you for asking it. I was not the best student in college. I went to school at Western Illinois University, and one day the dean of the business school called me up and said, Dirk, you're the end of the baby boomer. Our enrollment's going down. In fact, we're losing money every day we're open. He said, I don't know if we'd ever be able to survive if you decided to leave Western Illinois University. But then he looked at my grades and says, but Dirk, starting next semester, we're going to try and make it without you. So I had a little bumpy road, and my father at that time owned a small industrial laundry down in Belleville, Illinois. And he packed me in a car and he sent me down to Belleville, Illinois. And I worked for a summer in a hot, grimy, greasy, dirty industrial laundry with these butcher rags. Man, you're making me sweat now just thinking about it. I haven't thought about this in years. And you know what? It was that moment that said, Dirk, you better get serious. You better get serious. You've got more than this. And the rest is history. Went back and,
wow.
and started down the path.
Great. It's great. I've spoken with so many great leaders over the years, and they all have such a story. I mean, let me go through my notes here. I mean, just even to reminisce over here. John Scully. Scully, right? Pepsi right. CEO of Apple. He talked about driving the Pepsi truck. Driving the truck around, what he learned by driving a truck. Can you imagine? So hearing, and it's so important because, all people right out of college, they're dreaming by 25, I'm going to be the CEO. I'm going to run the whole thing. They don't realize it's a journey. It's a journey.
It is a journey. And let me go to something that I'm really passionate about right now. Yitzchok, when you talk about John Scully driving a truck, could you imagine? And you know what my response to that is? I absolutely can imagine that, because driving a truck or working in a hot, dirty laundry, there's dignity in those jobs. And I have, like you, have the utmost respect for individuals doing those jobs. And as you know, I spent all last summer, we're about ready to do it again, out on the road, crossing this country, 34 different businesses. And I've had a chance to meet the pickers in the warehouse, the people on the receiving dock, and everywhere. And I got to tell you something, every job, there's dignity in it and there's respect in it. And I will tip my hat to every driver. that and everybody in those dirty jobs, if you will.
By the way, before I get to asking you the obvious, what you do, I just have to give this shout out. Again, I've seen you in action. You just have a special magic and bringing out people's story, making them feel great. You really, it's really special, Dirk. It's really special.
Well, I appreciate that. And, you mentioned with L&R and Mark Bodner and his team with his Ignite event, you and I quite literally, we didn't know each other. Mark brought us together, right? And you talked about the importance of team. And I think what I really respect about you and your team is we all put our egos aside and said, there is one objective here, right? There's one objective, and that objective is to tell the story of the L&R way, to help every individual in that company realize, right, that they are designers, that they do play a noble role in this bigger economic picture and the like. And for you and I to cross this country, talking to the individuals of L&R, pulling out those stories, I absolutely love it. And the key is, right, the key is every individual we meet in our businesses, on the street, in our families, through this radio show, every individual has a story. Every individual has wisdom. Every individual has much to contribute to me. And that's how I look at it. And I just love hearing those stories.
So Dirk, talk about UnleashWD. Later on, we're going to talk about your speaking gigs. You travel around the world speaking. But what does your firm stand for? What service do you provide out in the marketplace?
Yeah, so UnleashWD, WD stands for wholesale distribution. We're a design, innovation, and strategy firm that helps primarily independent distributors remain relevant and profitable in this age of disruption. In this age of Amazon, in this age of digital transformation, how do these businesses truly compete? And that's the business that we are in. We help these organizations rethink their strategy, rethink their vision, rethink their culture, rethink their value proposition, their business model, and how they develop leaders in their organization. And we do that through our speaking. We do it through our workshops. We do it through our online courses. We have the only innovation summit for distributors in the country called Unleash Innovation Summit. And then more recently, the We Supply America tour that we might talk about in a little bit.
We're going to jump right into a very critical subject in today's day and age. It always is a very important subject, and that is the role of leadership. So I turn to Dirk, and let's talk about Leadership 2022, coming out of the pandemic. Talk about, especially with the challenges that in terms of getting great talent, attracting and retaining great talent. The word leadership is a big word, and talk about the challenge of leadership.
Yeah, I will. So Yitzchok, thanks for the question. So let me set the context, if you don't mind. All right. Sure. And as you know, I don't think your listeners know, last summer I spent 97 days in an RV on the We Supply America tour, driving over 16,599 miles, 35 different states from sea to shining sea, visiting 34 different businesses. And as I did that, as I said, I didn't know what I was going to learn because I'd never done anything like it before. And so I really didn't know what was going to come out of it, right? But that's what innovators do.
Right.
You go and you figure it out. And so I'll tell you there's a lot of lessons, but two fundamental lessons that came out of that tour that I think relates to your question about leadership. Number one, the first fundamental thing that I think about is that, from talking to all these businesses, is that the very nature of leadership is changing more rapidly than any of us really realize. That's number one. Number two, I believe that business at its core is not just about the product and the service that we have to sell. At its core, every business is about people. It's about the human beings that we touch and that we interact with every single day. So to your question about leadership, I believe what I found is that leadership is evolving through a third stage to a fourth stage. We know that leadership in the past, right? We were taught, our fathers and mothers were taught to lead through fear and through controlling nature and legislating and all that. And there's still some businesses and managers that do that. They control, so that's number one. Number two, it's evolved from controlling to managing. We have processes in place. We're getting products out the door. We're profitable. We're making money. Keep everything. Maintain the status quo. Just manage it so that the status quo is maintained. That evolved over the years to leadership, right? To where we truly lead through vision and through strategy and the like. And we still need to do all that. But what I learned is that this fourth stage, what I call the noble leadership. And this noble leadership is all about purpose, and it's about impact, and it's about helping the individuals on your team not just be productive for the sake of the job and the sake of the business, but I believe going forward in this post-pandemic world, because of the forces, as leaders, we have to rethink it, and it's about helping unleash the human spirit so that every individual on our team fulfills their potential.
Now, Dirk, I just want to unpack that a little because you amazing response, amazing answer. How does a leader go about communicating their vision? I mean, you're right. Everything you're saying is something that I would think that most leaders would even agree on paper. But then what's the advice on how to actually execute that?
Well, how do they actually execute it? So I think number one, it comes down to realizing how I want to lead, right? And we truly have to think about how we want to lead. And one of the things that came out of our pandemic is we've developed what we call this noble calling of leadership assessment. And we've identified 7 ethos of leadership, right? And each of those 7 ethos, purpose, people, family, ownership mindset, customer centricity, expertise, and profit. And you can take each of those 7 ethos and put it on the scale of controlling, managing, leading, and noble calling. So I think in order to communicate, the first thing I have to do as a leader is understand, A, how am I leading today, and what's my ambition to become a leader? So that's number one. And then number 2, it comes down to vision. I think we can talk about that a little bit later, but it comes down to, do you as a leader truly have a vision for your organization? Because most leaders I have a chance to interact with haven't been able to articulate where they're taking their organization.
You know, we do have it down in our notes to talk about it a little bit later, but I just can't pass the opportunity. Could we talk for a minute about executive vision? Executive vision.
Yeah. I think executive vision is absolutely critical. In fact, I believe leadership begins with vision. I'll make the statement that without vision, there is no change, there's no transformation, there is no innovation. So think about it. If we as a leader cannot articulate where we are today as an organization, what our capabilities are, what our value proposition, what our business model is today, if we can't articulate where we're at today and what we strive to become, if we cannot articulate that gap we need to close, I guarantee you we're going to be pulled back to status quo. We're going to be pulled back to comfort. We're going to be pulled back to what we know. And so it absolutely is the start. We have to be able to do that. And I think visioning in my mind is a 4-phase process. And can I walk you through those 4 phases real quick?
Please.
Yeah. So the first phase is what I call leadership mindset. It comes back to looking in the mirror at first. And you have to ask yourself, do you truly believe in long-term thinking? Look, if you're a public company and you're driven by quarterly earnings, forget about a vision, because your decision-making is going to be driven by those quarterly results. If you're a small independent business and you're just concerned about, paying the bills or getting enough profit so that you can redo your kitchen, vision is going to be lacking. So you got to start with your mindset and ask, do I believe in long-term thinking? And the second part of this mindset, I think we have to ask ourselves, do we truly believe we can impact and shape our future? Because in these disruptive times, the external forces, you talked about them, the supply chain issues, the labor issues, the geopolitical issues, just think about what Putin has done, right? And what it's doing to the world and our businesses. Some people are going to come to the conclusion that, that's all out of my control. And so I can't really shape the future. Well, I'm here to say that you can shape the future. And in order to define the vision, you have to start with that mindset and check in on yourself. Does that make sense, Yitzchok?
It makes so much sense. We also, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is your passion, the way you give it over, the energy. It's great.
Well, thanks, I appreciate it. I just love it. And, I have, like you, I have the opportunity to meet so many people that I get to learn this from. So can I go on?
Yes, please.
So number one, the first phase in this visioning process is let's check in with ourselves. Number two, the second phase, the second phase is we have to get our arms as a leader around the pace and the confluence of change. And as a leader, we truly have to acknowledge and feel the reality of change and its impact on how business is going to be done. The fact, I don't know if, I'd be willing to bet none of your listeners truly believe that the future is going to be less digital tomorrow than it is today, right? I don't believe there's, I believe when you look at the mega forces, we got to look at social changes. So we use a model called STEEP, STEEP, and it says, let's look at social, technological, economic, environmental, and political issues. Cheryl Conley, the chief futurist for Ford Motor Company, she said, we can never really know what's going to happen, but if you spend your time looking at the forces along that STEEP model, social, technological, economic, environmental, and political, then you can start to get your hands around the potential of what might happen. And I like to say, how we live, how we work, and how we change is how we live, work, and play is absolutely being disrupted. And it's a leader's responsibility to get their arms around that and then create a narrative for him or herself and their team so that there's an urgency for change and to understand what that change needs to be. It's number two. Yes. Number three,
sure.
Okay, number three is then we have to start looking to the future. Now what we need to do is we now just sit back, start connecting the dots. I call it peering into the future. And we got to ask ourselves, which of these forces are going to make their way into our marketplace, into our customers' business, into our suppliers' business, and how will they potentially change the rules of how work is going to be done? And I like to use the word bet. And this is a lot of thinking. It's a lot of dialogue. It's a lot of research. But in the end, a leader needs to place a bet on the future that they envision. And we need to then create scenarios around what's going to be required to seize opportunities around that envisioned future that we have. And then the fourth step is, now that we've gone through all that process, now we have to put pen to paper and we have to actually craft that vision. What is that gap we're going to close? What are we going to become tomorrow? Again, in terms of our culture, in terms of our value proposition, our business model, the market segment, the size. Every vision is different based on the business. But then we need to put pen to paper and we need to be able to articulate that future reality that we really believe is possible with committed effort.
It brings to mind when I interviewed Joe Hart, the president and CEO of Dale Carnegie. He also had that note. He said that you could have the greatest meeting and the smartest people around the table, and they're ready to change the world and there's great impact. But if it's not written down, don't expect it to be implemented. It's got to be written down, or if it's on a computer, however, but just documented. It's got to be documented.
Yeah, and it's agree. It's got to be documented. And, the vision is so clear in our mind, right? we think it's clear in everybody else's mind. But if we cannot communicate it, articulate it, to your point, we won't be able to develop the traction to make it happen. And last thing on this, if you don't mind,
sure.
I truly believe your ability to craft this meaningful, inspiring, and a relevant vision, right? And to be able to articulate it and write it down, as you say. I think your ability to do that is the difference between stasis and change. I think your ability to do that, it's the difference between plateauing and growth. And I think it's the difference between triviality and significance. Think about that one. The difference between triviality and significance.
For those that are watching on video, you're wondering who's sitting in for me. It's Eliyahu Lerer, but we're here with Dirk Beveridge. I'm going to hand it over. All right, Dirk, it's all yours.
I appreciate it. Eliyahu, great to see you again, my friend. It's been too long. How are you?
How are you doing? Oh, it's great. I haven't seen you in forever. It's, looking back at Ignite and I can't believe that it was so long ago. Because when you see somebody after a long, you don't realize how long it's been. I felt like Ignite was yesterday. Then I see you. I'm like, wow, I haven't seen Dirk in so long.
Yeah, I do. I miss you guys. Yitzchok and I were talking about how we came together. We absolutely, both parties put our egos to the side and we said, there's a task to get done and let's do whatever is necessary. And I just loved working with you guys to create magic together. And that's what you guys do at Bottom Line Marketing. You guys create magic. And it was amazing to be a part of it, man. So thanks for having me be a part of it.
Oh, yeah. It was, I was amazed the whole process, sitting in all those meetings and the way you drew out, that's also magic. I don't know what that is, but the way you drew out the stories out of each and every person, asking the right questions and getting them, it's not even like you were leading them. It's almost as if you knew. Are you a mind reader?
No, I'm not, man. I wish I was. So let me ask you something. How long have you been at Bottom Line? And let's start there. How long have you been at Bottom Line?
Okay. This June will actually be my 2-year anniversary. So about a month. Fantastic.
And what is it that you come into work every day passionate about to do, that makes you a part of such a great team and to do great work? What do you come in every day so passionate about?
Okay. So I like to just walk in because, I look at myself almost like an architect. An architect looks at this New York City skyline and they could say, hey, look, that building, I had my part in that building. And it's like a piece of the New York City skyline. Like, what greater honor? And, I look at the clients that we have here and, how they make their mark and how they've grown. Look at LNR, 1,100 employees.
Amazing, right?
And the fact that we put together this incredible event, bringing everybody together, aligning messaging, a huge event that spanned across the whole country.
Yeah.
Was amazing, and I walk in and I'm like, I love being a part of this. This is awesome. I made my mark.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, you, sir, are making a difference, and I saw it firsthand, and I absolutely loved working with you, and can't wait to do it again.
Same. All right, Dirk, great to see you again. I'm going to pass it off to Tzvi here, and really exciting.
Be well, my friend, okay?
You too.
Thanks. Tzvi, my friend, how are you?
Hey, Dirk, buddy. How's it going?
I'm blessed, buddy. I'm blessed. Yeah. You doing well?
Thank God. Yeah, it's great to see you.
Cool, you too. What's making you well? How's that family of yours, bud?
Thank God, everything's great. Got my 2 sons doing well. My wife, couldn't be happier.
Yeah, love it, man. What's exciting you today? Big picture. What's exciting you today about the work that you're doing at BLMG?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I had the realization recently that what drives us at BLMG. What I realized is that the work that we're doing is really changing the world. We work with incredible organizations. I heard Eliyahu talking before about working with LNR. It's a big company. We made a big difference in 1,100 employees' lives. And, we do that for charity organizations. We do that for corporations also. It's a huge honor.
Tzvi, let's go there if you don't mind, because I think coming off the work that we did for LNR with this Ignite event, right, which our organizations came together with Mark and his team to relaunch, if you will, the L&R Way, the culture of that organization. Mark has such a strong vision, right, in terms of the culture of that organization. And he wanted to ensure that it continues to be solidified and every individual feels that every day, not only inside the four walls, but outside of business as well. And I truly find that to be noble, what Mark does. But do I have this right, that the work that we did together to help Mark do that was part of that epiphany that you had, that were changing the world at BLMG? And if
Absolutely.
so, walk me through that. Walk me through that epiphany.
I mean, it's like Mark likes to say, you drop a stone in a pond, you don't know where the ripples are going to end. We were, he's a client of ours. We were doing work with him. We were creating this event on his behalf, but it was affecting all of us. I mean, we're still working, editing the videos, and I watch these messages about being proactive, being in gratitude. And, the one line that sticks with me, and I've told you things like this before, is how Mark says you can be grateful in a situation, even if you're not grateful for a situation. And I've spoken about that, how sometimes things come up in life, and, and I think of it as like a reminder from God that, somebody gets sick, right? But thank God, overall everyone's healthy and you have your family, so you have strep today. But thank God for everything that you do have, and it's a reminder. And that's what I think Mark kind of means by being grateful in the situation, even if you're not grateful for what's happening in that moment. And I do believe, I think it had a big impact on me.
Yeah, I love it. It's really beautiful. And, as I'm listening to you, the thought going through my mind, Tzvi, is the learner needs to be in a mindset to learn, right? Yeah. And for you to have gone through that experience with an open mind that say that we're not just getting this job done, but there are lessons to be taken from this that I can process. Man, kudos to you, buddy.
Thank you. Kudos to you. And thank you for teaching me those lessons. You too, Dirk.
Sweet, great seeing you, my friend. Be well.
Yeah.
And hug that family, as I know you will tonight. All right, bud?
Will do. It's great to see you, Dirk.
You, buddy. Be well.
See ya.
So, Dirk, what do you say? Am I blessed with a good team or what?
Oh, my goodness. Absolutely, buddy. And the team you have built is amazing.
Thank you. Oh, man. We're speaking with Dirk Beveridge, founder of UnleashWD. Let's stay on message here and talk about corporate culture. I've seen you in action. I saw what you did for the 1,100 employees at what you did and continue to do, because the message lives on. You built out a great story, a great communications initiative. I guess that's really the broadest word that I could use, because it wasn't just that day in January where we all came together in Monroe, New Jersey, but it's living on beyond that day, reminding everyone that they're part of something so much larger. Let's talk about corporate culture. How critical is it in today's day and age, especially to remind a team of the mission, vision, and purpose?
Yeah. Would it be wrong to say that it's everything? Right?
Fair answer.
I did a presentation a couple of weeks ago, and the presenter before me was a demographer, and he made the statement, and he pulled me in, and his statement was, human resources is going to be bigger than finance going forward.
Wow. What a statement.
Yeah, right? So just think about it. And you can argue it, right?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. Yep.
You can argue it, but just think about it, right? And so, you and I, before the break, we talked about this disruptive and the forces and the like. But so I like to look at these disruptive forces from an external, things we talked about, internal things going on inside the business disruptive. But I think there's a new pillar that we need to be thinking about, Yitzchok, and that's what I call the people forces. And coming out of this pandemic, people, individuals, our employees have been impacted in a way that, it's been generations since people have been impacted in this way. Right. And you think about everything from the hybrid work environment to growing diversity to polarizing social and political views to the human toll of COVID to the shifting definition of work to the shifting meaning of work to this work-life balance, and we can go on. But the fact is individuals are coming out of this. And I think that out of the pandemic different. And I think that is going to impact our culture in a huge, huge way going forward. And we need, as individual leaders, to think about our culture deeper than we ever have. Every business has a culture. The question is, has it been intentional or not? And many businesses, the culture hasn't been intentional. It's just evolved. And I think if we continue to just allow it to evolve because of this swirl that's around us in society, thus our markets, thus our business, we're going to have a hard time attracting and retaining the talent and the people that we need to sustain and grow our businesses profitably going forward.
Dirk, in your presentations, you have a great spiel, a great presentation about community, the Adam Grant approach versus family. Could you please share that with the listeners? Yeah,
I would love that. Thanks so much for asking. I didn't know that you were aware of it. So I really appreciate you asking about it. So, Adam Grant, the author, the thought leader, he sits on the stage of the World Economic Forum and the like. And I mean, truly brilliant. And I've had the chance to work with Adam, 10 years ago or 15 years ago when he was down at UNC. And from that day on, even before Adam Grant was Adam Grant, his brilliance was there. And so I just love what he does and what he speaks about. But there's one thing that he's recently came out on social saying, and I want to talk about it. I want to explore it. And what he said in a nutshell was something like defining your culture as a family is wrong. And what he said was something like, because families don't lay people off in tough times or something like that, right? He says it's better to use the word community, to come together and raise a community. Well, I wholeheartedly disagree with that. And here's why. It's because of that We Supply America tour from last summer. It's because of those 97 days on the road. It's because of those 34 businesses, the hundreds and hundreds of individuals in businesses that I talked to last summer, face to face, when everybody's locked down, we're on the warehouse floor talking.
Right.
And I would meet, Yitzchok, people with 20 years experience, 30 years experience in that company. And I'd ask him, I'd say, my goodness, what has kept you here for 20 years?
Right.
What I invariably heard was, we're not just a number here. And they followed it up with, we're family.
Yeah.
Out of those 34 different visits, hundreds of people, not one time, not once when I asked the question, what's kept you here? Not once did they say, we're a community. Not once. They said, we're a family here. We treat each other as family. And if you don't mind, so I drilled into that. A lot of companies talk about being a family, but it's hard to articulate what they really mean by that, right? And so, again, nobody outlined this to me, but from looking at from having these interactions and connecting and hugging the people I met, there's 7 criteria that I see in this culture of family that separates those businesses who talk about having a family culture, who talk about wanting to develop a community rather than family. 7 criteria that really creates this sense of family. Number 1, there's a deep, deep and a strong bond between the employees and leadership and each other. Mm-hmm. There's a deep connection amongst them. There's a commitment to each other. Adam Grant, talked about, well, you're not a family, you're a community because you don't lay people off. Well, I got to tell you something. I went in the height of the pandemic and heard stories, and so many of these independent family-owned businesses, that moment when they knew the world was going to change, the first thing they did is they said, we're going to lay nobody off. We're going to figure this out. There's a commitment. Not everybody, don't get me wrong, right? You have to do what you have to do. But there's that deep, deep commitment. Next, number 4, dignity. Think about in family. There's dignity in every individual in that family. I got to tell you something. We talked about this early on. You know, that driver, John Scully, right? In these businesses where there's a family culture, there is dignity and respect for every single job. Every individual understands the value they bring, and the company understands the value they bring. They belong to something bigger. They understand the value that they actually create, no matter what role you're in, that I add value to everybody around me. And dare I say, the 7th one, Yitzchok, is there is truly love in these organizations with family. And there truly is a love in these organizations. And real quick, I don't know if I'm right or not, but as I think this through, I asked the question, how do you define love? I'd like to ask you that, but I'll give you my definition first. My definition of love is growth. When you're committed to something, when you love something, if you love a plant, you're going to help it grow. If you love your business, you're going to help it grow. If you love your pet, you're going to help it grow. If you love individuals, people, human beings, you help them grow. And that's what I see these businesses that I visited on the We Supply America tour do. They are platforms to help individuals grow and develop and fulfill their potential. And if that's not family, if that's not love, I don't know what is.
Well, Dirk, see, I'm blessed because we have to go to a commercial break. No, but just kidding. By the way, in Hebrew, the word love is ahava. Ahava. And yeah, and the root of that word is have, to give. When someone loves someone, really similar to what you brought up, it's that they just want to give. They want to give. Love is not lust. Lust is to get. Love is to give. And that's why in Hebrew the root of that word is have, to give. You love someone, you just want. A parent loves a child, they're always giving to the child. It's have, ahava. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mind your business with Yitzchok Saftlas right here on 710 WR. A special thank you to the people who co-hosted tonight's show with me. Eliyahu Lerer, the VP of Operations at Bottom Line Marketing Group, and Tzvi Koegel, the Creative Director here at Bottom Line Marketing Group. And we were on the team all together, along with Dirk Beveridge, who's my guest this evening, when we built out a corporate culture vision, direction, initiative, program, whatever title you give it, for Mark Bodner out at L&R Distributors and the companies that exist throughout America, coast to coast. Dirk, in the few minutes that we have remaining, I would love to cover 2 topics. First of all, to talk about public speaking, and then to get to the We Supply America tour. I want to hear what's going on. I mean, are you going to try to outdo last year? But first, let's go to public speaking. What's like the biggest crowd you've ever spoken at, and kind of what is a good tip that you could share with everyone that when you jump up on stage that everyone should be thinking when they speak in a public setting? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. So I think probably the largest that I've spoke to in the room is around 2,500 people.
Nice.
And more, virtually and all that. But so my philosophy of public speaking, right, is this. My philosophy is it's my job, it's my responsibility. And this is what I would coach anybody, Yitzchok. It's my job and my responsibility to craft the perfect presentation. It's my job to understand up front, right, the objectives of that meeting, the audience, their mindsets, their challenges, their obstacles, what they're thinking about, their business. And I need to understand my specific role, my specific assignment that I'm being hired for, if you will. And then it's my job to go into all the research that we have, right? To go into the critical thinking tools that we have, the stories that we have, because people learn from stories, right?
Yep.
And then it's my job to craft that perfect presentation that drives inspiration, that drives a new way of thinking, and that gives individuals that that spark, if you will, to say, you know what? I can be better tomorrow than I was today. And my goal is at the end, this perfect presentation is that if two executives are on the other side of the room as I'm done, as I walk off stage, what I strive for is that one executive looks across the room to the other and mouths, "That was perfect." That's what we strive for every time. And that's what I think every speaker should strive for. And by the way, that's if you're speaking to 2,500 people, if you're speaking on a podcast, if you're speaking on a radio show, if you're speaking in a sales call, right? Do the work. Be prepared. Understand your assignment and go knock it out of the park.
Such great advice. Dirk, in the 2 minutes we have remaining, are you going to outdo last year? You climbed into that RV and you drove coast to coast. What's your plans for 2022? Or am I putting you on the spot? Are you allowed to share it?
No.
Okay, great.
In fact, we just launched it, and I'd love everybody to go to WeSupplyAmerica.net. And, I left, when COVID hit, right? And then 2 weeks to flatten the curve became, we're entering our second year.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody's locked down, the human toll, the business toll, and everything. When COVID hit, Yitzchok, I pivoted to say I needed to do 4 things. I needed to find ways to provide insight, inspiration, connectedness, and a hug. And we did that a lot of different ways. But in year 2, man, you know what? We had to think differently. And so, I bought an RV, I wrapped it with We Supply America Tour, and we went across this country with a video crew, and we created, number 1, a docuseries of 8 films of these businesses that are truly noble businesses, the backbone of this country. Go and watch those films and you will cry, you will laugh, and you will take business lessons from it. That's number 1. Number 2, then the second part of that tour, what we're going to do again this year is we stopped at those 34 different businesses and we created an employee experience like none other, where we create an experience for the employees to truly stop and pause and really understand the dignity and the respect of the work they do and the noble calling of distribution. Distribution is a $7 trillion industry, the 3rd largest industry, economic engine on this planet, behind the GDP of the US and China. Creates over 6 million jobs. We don't have the plumbing. We don't have the healthcare. We don't have our food system. We don't have what we have without distribution. And to help individuals understand that in this time after the pandemic, to understand the impact they have and the dignity in what they do every day, I found it's very, very important. And I am excited to get back on the road to do it. And I'd love to stop at your business, anybody, and you can go and make it happen at WeSupplyAmerica.net.
Dirk, before I let you go, how can people find out more about UnleashWD and about even your speaking gigs?
Yeah. It's actually, hey, number 1, thank you for having me. I
course.
love the work.
Amazing.
I love the work that you do here on Mind Your Business. I mean, you help everybody grow and get better. And so thank you for that. I'd love to talk to anybody. You can go to DirkBeveridge.com or UnleashWD.com. And then We Supply America, 3, WeSupplyAmerica.net. I'd love to chat with you about any of those.
What a great show. We are out of time, but we'll be back again next week here on 710 WOR. What an amazing show. Dirk Beveridge, founder of UnleashWD, and of course this will become a very popular YouTube episode on 710 WOR, Mind Your Business. Well, this wraps up a great edition of Mind Your Business. Have a successful week. Thank you for watching, and make sure to subscribe to this channel and be notified every single time a new video goes live. Don't miss out on any of the weekly interviews that I have with top business leaders, sometimes Fortune 500 executives. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications.